Welcome back to the Holistically Well podcast. So, today we are diving into all things healthier hormones through reducing toxin load in our environment. So, what we put in, on, and around our body. In prior episodes, we really talked about the in, how do we nourish our body? How do we reduce the toxin exposure that comes in? And today's going to really deep dive on the around and understanding that this is not just a marketing ploy for companies to, create healthier products, but that environmental toxins are a real thing, and we'll break down exactly what to look for and why. Now, the truth is, we are surrounded by endocrine disrupting chemicals, which mimic or block hormones and throw off our natural balance. And that's why this is a concern. And as a medical provider, that's why I care about this, because chemicals in our environment mimic hormones in our body. So that's why we call them endocrine disruptors. Our endocrine system is that system that creates and manages our hormones in our body. So things like microplastics, as they get into our body, look like estrogen in our body. And so, big picture, that's why this is important. Now, what this is not is fear inducing. We are not going to create fear or overwhelm in you today. Simply put, this is not about living in fear or perfection. It's about making informed choices that reduce the toxin load in your body and what it has to manage daily. I want your body to be resilient. I myself am not perfect, and quite frankly, it is impossible to be perfect in today's society. We are all going to have exposure. The goal is that your body is resilient and not only reduces the load we put in, but also optimizes our ability to put out, to have those wastes removed from our body. And so we'll break down how to do all of that today. Now, this episode is extremely relevant for the woman who is in the position that I once was. So I opened up in my very first episode, the story behind Holistically Well, how I would get one menstrual cycle a year and was told that I would struggle to have children someday. To deep dive into that further, when my husband and I were ready to try to conceive about a year ahead of time, after we got married, I went to my gynecologist at my yearly annual appointment and said, what can I do to optimize my health for conception? What can I do to create a healthy, fertile environment? Because I was once told that I would struggle to have children, and I'm really nervous about that. And her response to me was that I should go and have fun for a year, and if I wasn't pregnant, to come back, and we would talk about any recommendations then. And I was also told that if I had 3 miscarriages, then we would talk about fertility support. You can imagine how frustrating that was at 16 to be told I would struggle to have children, and then at 27 to be told it didn't matter and that I would have to have 3 miscarriages before she would offer any type of help. So that honestly was when I started going down the rabbit hole of reducing toxin load in our home, because I started to read the literature behind how these chemicals mimic estrogen in our body and can throw off a woman's normal hormone cycle. So in regards to fertility, this is extremely important and something I really invite you to chip away at in your home, to come to this episode with curiosity, because it truly is so impactful, and I believe was a huge part of the reason that I was able to conceive on the very first time trying with all 3 of my children. And that is after being told that I would struggle to conceive someday. So this truly is one piece of the puzzle. Nourishment, exercise, nervous system regulation, things we're covering in other episodes are all also pieces of the puzzle. But this reducing toxin load is definitely a huge piece to the puzzle as well. So key disruptors of our environment and hormones, hormone disruption, so key chemicals to look out for would be BPA. So bisphenol A is an industrial chemical that has been used to make certain plastics. Now this includes the plastic lining in canned foods, in soda cans, I hope you're not drinking soda, but even in our lovely Olipop and Poppy drinks, there is that plastic lining in cans. If you get a to-go coffee in one of those paper cups, the inside is lined in plastic to reduce leakage through that outside paper. If you get to-go food in a plastic container and that food is hot, it is going to leach BPA or bisphenol A. Parabens are found in lotions, shampoos, and cosmetics. They help to create a better consistency for those products, and they also help to preserve the products. Fragrance is another keyword to look out for, and it is a hidden catch-all ingredient phrase that you'll see on most of our body care products. Fragrance could contain upwards of hundreds of chemicals just in that one word. And it's a trademark seal that companies don't have to disclose what is within their fragrance. So if it is a trusted company and then they break down further what exactly is in their fragrance, sometimes we can get away with it being okay. But ideally, we just want to see on that label no fragrance, and we want to see exactly what is in that product. For example, organic essential oils, etc. PFAS would be another key chemical to watch out for. This stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which are a group of thousands of synthetic chemicals used in a lot of products for industrial processes. And they are known for their resistance to heat, grease, water, and oil. You will find PFAS on nonstick pans, waterproof items, and then fast fashion. So think Shein products. They have a lot of those PFAS chemicals on them. So toxins don't come with skull and crossbones labels on them, right? They're often just lurking in the everyday items that we use, especially here in the United States, where these chemicals are largely unregulated and without warning labels, despite loads of research supporting their harmful effects. All right, so I broke this down a bit, but we're gonna break down item by item where we might find this. So for instance, food packaging, right? Plastics, takeout containers, and those canned foods. Cosmetics and personal care items. So think about your lipstick, your makeup, your foundation, shampoo, lotion, deodorants. That's a big one because where we apply our deodorant is where we have a huge amount of lymph nodes in our body. So it's a very absorbable location, and it can often have a number of these chemicals in it. Candles and air fresheners. So fragrance is a huge one that you will see on any of these. And remember, that can have a number of unlisted chemicals just within that one word, that one ingredient. Receipts. So the thermal paper that lines our receipts is actually coated in bisphenol A, BPA. Finally, cookware, as I mentioned, nonstick pans and bakeware. So a little story here. When we were engaged and the thought of having children became prominent in my mind, as I opened up earlier, that I started to chip away at reducing toxin load in my own body care products. And the way I started with this is by looking up the existing products that I had on EWG, or the Environmental Working Group. I'll actually paste that in the show notes. It's a free website that you can simply type in products that you're already using. So this was so eye-opening for me to understand my starting point. I would type in the foundation that I was using and it came up as hazardous. Same thing for the Lysol or the cleaning ingredients that we were using in our home. And so this is a great way to get yourself started. See where the products rate that you're already using. And then as you run out, replace them. Replace them with an item that is marked green. It gets a good 1 or a 2 rating, or it gets an EWG stamp of approval. So products that are EWG verified have gone through a huge vetting process. Now, I will say those products are just as good as the products receiving a 1 rating. To be EWG verified, the company does pay to essentially get that stamp of approval. But if they have a rating of 1, they're essentially meeting that stamp of approval just without paying to get the actual verification, okay? Think Dirty app is another good one. That can be an app right on your phone, and you can actually scan products in the store. So if you're going to replace your dish soap, if you've been using Dawn dish soap, and you'll find that usually has a red hazardous rating and you're looking to replace that at the store, you can easily scan the products that are available and select an item that has a very low hazardous rating. So start with just one product to reduce overwhelm. Swap as you go through, as you run out and need new products. As you work your way through swapping out products in your home environment, I encourage you to avoid the all or nothing philosophy. Recently, a patient of mine reached out saying that she was so overwhelmed. Every podcast that she listened to made her feel like it was impossible to attain health in our current environment without moving to some secluded, remote area and absolutely homestead by herself. And this simply was not an option for the life she was leading, where her family was located, and, for the work that she was currently doing. She's in that preconception phase of life. And I encouraged her that the polarizing topics are the ones that get more attention, more attraction, more listeners, simply for the reason that they are polarizing. It invokes emotion, whether positive or negative. My goal with Holistically Well is for you to look at health from all angles, to give you real life ways to implement these goals for your whole body health without stress or overwhelm. So don't compare your starting point if you're just now diving into more of a holistic approach to health. Don't compare your starting point with my decade in, with my 10 years in, right? The same is true for another podcaster you follow or listen to understand that we all have to start somewhere, to let go of that overwhelm, let go of perfection, and really embrace progress over perfection. So each step that you make in the right direction, each next purchase, each next choice can be a movement towards a healthier you, and to really let go of the fact that everything has to look perfect. So now we're going to focus really on those highest impact categories. So what goes in your body, what goes on your body, and then what is around your body. It's also what you do most of the time that matters most. So, for instance, that eyeliner that you use twice a year, I'm way less concerned about than the countertops cleaning spray that you're using twice a day, even though the eyeliner goes on your body and that countertop spray is around it. Make sense? So, we want to reframe detoxing in your home as a form of empowerment and self care, right? So here's a few high impact, low overwhelm swaps that you can start right away. One would be to get a water filter. So start with a simple countertop or pitcher version, and then to use organic foods when possible. So the EWG, or the Environmental Working Group, also has a dirty dozen list that identifies the fruits and vegetables with the highest pesticide residues in them. The 2024 list, they have not released 2025 yet, but the 2024 list has strawberries, spinach, kale and collard greens, grapes, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, bell and hot peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. So I'd encourage you to buy those organic when possible, as they're the fruits and vegetables that are most likely to be lined with pesticides and some of those environmental chemicals that we talked about earlier. Now, if you're on a budget, Aldi's is a great place to find these, or Costco, where you can really stock up in bulk. But I also want to remind you that having these foods, just as regular strawberries, for instance, is going to be healthier than something that is processed, even if you can't find it organic. So keep that in mind. But when we want to prioritize organic when possible, prioritize the dirty dozen first. We also want to use glass containers to store our foods and to ditch that plastic Tupperware for leftovers. Especially make sure you're not putting any hot foods into plastic containers, and ensure you are not reheating anything in plastic containers. If possible, when you go out to eat or you're at a family gathering where there might be leftovers shared, bring your own glass storage containers instead of taking it home in plastic. Finally, swap your cookware from the toxic ones containing those PFAS, the PFAS linings that we talked about earlier, and instead you can swap for cast iron or stainless steel. Ceramic can also be an option, but when that ceramic coating chips away, then we can be into some of those chemical containing linings. So just ensure that if you are cooking on ceramic, to make sure you're using wooden spoons typically, or wooden utensils or silicones, so that we're not scraping any of that non-toxic lining. Next, let's move into on your body. So self-care products are, goodness, a rabbit hole that we could spend a ton of time going down. But simply put, I want you to start typing in the products that you're using on EWG or the Think Dirty apps. This is an easy way to audit the products you're currently using, and as you run out, to swap out for something better. Now, with clients who are struggling with infertility and who are actively wanting to try to conceive now, I tell them to look up those products and anything that has that red or that hazardous warning label on EWG to stop using, to do a hard and fast stop using and replace it with something better. Now, for somebody who is in the position that I was in a decade ago, whenever I started on this journey, when my husband and I weren't yet ready to try to conceive, but it was a future desire, I started chipping away at it. It wasn't an emergent need for me at that time. And so as I ran out of a product, I would replace it with something better. That's certainly the more economical and less overwhelming way to go about it, and definitely where I encourage you to start, unless you are in a health flare right now, such as a struggle with infertility or other specific autoimmune or behavioral issues, mood issues. If you're struggling with any of those, then I would do a cold stop of any of those harmful products and make sure you're swapping in those better preferred items. In terms of things to put on your body, a brand I really like is Primally Pure. They have wonderful facial, home, and body care products that I use not only on myself, but on my whole family. I just love that I can smother my little babies in kisses and they can nuzzle in against my face and my neck, my body, and I'm not worried about any off-putting chemicals or harmful fragrances that they're inhaling. And an important side note on that, when it comes to these chemicals and them being in our environment and around our body and in our cleaners and all of these things, yes, it's harmful to us as women in terms of fertility and hormones and our cycle health as we move through each of those life seasons. But goodness, when we think of this in terms of little bodies and the percentage that they are increasing intake compared to us, it is so much higher. The volume, the load, that if we're exposed to the same amount, both them and us, it's going to impact them way more than us just because their body is so much smaller. And this can show up as ADHD, which we are seeing a huge rise in number of for our young children. So please keep that in mind if you are a mom raising kids, that this is so important for your kiddos too. So Primally Pure, the code Dr. Kayla will give you 10% off any order there. I absolutely just adore their stuff. They use tallow-based products. Everything is naturally derived, and they're going to get a good green check mark from EWG in terms of it being very, very low, non-existent in terms of any toxins. All right. When it comes to around your body, this is going to involve things like cleaners, candles, products that we're using in our home, right? So for cleaners, I highly encourage you to either make your own. You can do so very cheaply with vinegar and baking soda. There are tons of easy recipes out there for that. I like to use a mix of Branch Basics or Thieves. So Branch Basics has a really concentrated solution that you simply mix with water. And I will use this for my toilet bowl cleaner, for cleaning our countertops. And it is completely non-toxic, meaning when I spray it, and if I am to inhale that, if my kids are around when I'm wiping down the table and they breathe in anything that I just sprayed, it is going to have zero ill effect on their body. Thieves, very similar. That you just use a capful and I'll mix it with water. That I will use as well if I want something that has a bit of a scent. It has some essential oils in it, whereas Branch Basics does not. So I kind of go in phases. I have both on hand and just mix up what we use. I will say one concentrated solution from either of them last for a while. So know that that upfront investment is giving you like a year's worth plus of cleaning supplies. And of course, you can do so very cheaply, as I said, by making your own with things like baking soda and vinegar. Now, candles is another one, or air fresheners, that many people will use and not think twice about. However, that cheap candle that you're burning from Marshalls or TJ Maxx is giving off loads of chemicals and toxins, typically derived in that form of fragrance, where it's not disclosed exactly what it's off gassing, what it's burning off. And so instead, we want to choose beeswax, coconut, or soy candles with essential oils. Huge shout out to my friend Sammy, who owns Salt and Light by Sammy. She houses my very favorite non-toxic candles. I've included her website in the show notes as well as a discount code that she gave me. I love lighting a candle for like a cozy evening vibe as we wind down for the day, and I love that I can light hers and again know that it's not off-gassing or giving off any ill effects in terms of my hormone health. So, we've talked a lot about what's in, on, and around our body in terms of those environmental toxins, but we also want to optimize our body's ability to eliminate these toxins from our body. To that point earlier, that we're not going to be perfect. We are going to walk outside and inhale some exhaust from a car going past. We are going to have to, go through a store and they may have tons of Tide products that we smell as we're going through. It's just going to be a natural part of life that toxins are going to make their way into our body. The goal is, yes, to reduce the amount that they come in, but also optimize how they go out. So our body has a number of key detox pathways to naturally detox the body. One is sweat. So regular movement, sauna use, or even a brisk walk outdoors can get our blood pumping, can heat our body up where we're giving off some sweat. And that is a way that our body naturally helps expel some of those toxins waste. Hydration is another way. So, water is going to support our kidneys and our lymphatic system and help us flush out any toxins from our body. So, we want to aim for at least half your body weight in ounces of water daily. Remember, ideally, this would be filtered water so that we're removing and filtering out any chemicals that are just naturally occurring within our public water system. And then we'll simply pee out the rest as waste for our body. Bowel movements daily is ideal. So we're getting sweat, hydration where we pee it out, and then bowel movements. Daily, we are having a bowel movement ideally. If we have sluggish digestion, that means that those toxins are recirculating in our body. So if that bowel movement is sitting in your colon for, let's say, 3 days, if you're having a bowel movement only every 3 days, then those toxins are recirculating, okay? And that can cause a host of issues in our body, especially autoimmune issues or some of those fertility issues. So we want to make sure we're having regular daily bowel movements. A pro tip here would be to use potentially magnesium in the evening with some warm lemon water to help support your natural digestion. And then we can also pair this with abdominal massage. As a pelvic floor PT, this is something I commonly address in my private practice with patients. So if you are not having regular bowel movements, please reach out to me or a pelvic floor PT in your area, and we will absolutely get into regulating this for you. I also work with clients virtually, so even if you're not local to Midwest Ohio, this is something we can cover together so that you can have those regular bowel movements and get that waste elimination from your body. The final way that our body helps to detox naturally is through that lymphatic system. So, unlike your heart, the lymphatic system does not have a pump to pump the waste through your body to get it to where we want to expel it. It actually relies on movement to circulate waste through the lymphatic system. So, a huge pump I like to think of is our calf. So, as you walk or as you jump, that calf acts like a pump to circulate waste through the lymphatic system so that it can be optimally expelled. So we want to think of the lymphatic system as a drainage system for your body. It's picking up waste, toxins, and excess hormones and then carrying them out. but it only flows when you move. So, walking, rebounding, dry brushing, and even diaphragmatic breathing are great ways to stimulate the lymphatic system to do its job. So, if you've been sitting all day, even 5 minutes of movement can make a huge difference. I like to tell my clients to make sure you're moving 2 to 3 minutes every single hour. So if you've been sitting, get up for 2 to 3 minutes, take a walk around your house, just walk up and down the hallway if you need to, and you're helping get that lymphatic system pumping. So, an actionable takeaway to implement with zero cost would be to move for 2 to 3 minutes every single hour, whether that's a quick walk or hopping in place to simulate a rebounder. That is going to really help with that lymphatic system. And then finally, sleep. So, sleep is the brain's glymphatic system, which clears waste while we rest. Now, what the heck is the glymphatic system? This is actually a recently discovered waste clearance pathway in the brain that is analogous to the lymphatic system for the rest of the body because the brain has a lot of barriers that separate it in terms of absorption and waste removal from the rest of the body. Okay. So, it is analogous to the lymphatic system for the rest of the body that uses cerebrospinal fluid. All right. So the lymphatic system is going to use our cerebrospinal fluid, which is in that brain location. And this is going to remove metabolic waste products from our brain. I know that's a little nerdy and sciencey, but pretty cool, right? So sleep is going to be our final key step in naturally detoxifying the body. We need quality sleep for at least 6 to 8 hours a night to optimize this. Aim for the 8. And then if you're up with kids throughout the night, like me, then you might end up getting closer to the 6 hour mark. That's okay. For all things, there are a season, but aim for the 8. And if it's a little bit less, you're giving yourself some wiggle room. Tips for quality sleep will come even more in future episodes, but remember a good nighttime wind down routine, limiting blue light before bed, and kind of have that grounding time at bedtime where we're closing off all the lights and we're giving ourselves a calm down routine similar to what we would give our kiddos. In closing, I want you to remember that it's not about fancy detox kits. It's simply about supporting the systems you already have in place, reducing the toxin input to your body by swapping out toxin loaded products with healthier alternatives, and to then optimize your toxin output with the key systems that we chatted about to do so. It's simply that easy. I want you to choose one area of what you put in, on, or around your body to start detoxing today. Start looking up one area, whether it's your cleaning products, whether it's swapping out, plastic storage containers for glass, or whether it's your personal care products. Look up what you're currently using, put a plan in place to choose better items, and then set yourself up for more success when it comes to the detoxifying pathways. Now, if you want a free guide to help you out with this, I included in the show notes my Holistically Well toolkit. It really breaks down some of my favorite cleaning products, personal care products, candles, all of the things that we use in, on, and around our body within my own home that reduces toxin load and can really be a good blueprint for you as you start along this journey yourself, or as you continue along this journey if it's something that you've already been keeping front of mind. As always, thank you for tuning in. Share this episode with a friend who would benefit from reducing toxin load in their home and who would benefit from optimizing their own detox pathways to create a healthier you. As always, thanks for listening.